Good afternoon. I am Linda Dixon, Program Manager for the Department of Defense Combating Trafficking in Persons, CTIP Office. Welcome. This is the DOD's 2020 National Slavery and Human Trafficking Awareness Month event. Please rise for the arrival of the official party and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. We are pleased to acknowledge the official party, the Ambassador at Large for the Office to Monitor and Combat Trafficking in Persons at the State Department, Ambassador John Cotton Richmond. The Director of the Defense Human Resources Activity for the Department of Defense, Mr. William H. Booth. And the Acting Director of the Pentagon Force Protection Agency, Dr. Daniel P. Walsh. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an interesting program for you today. Unfortunately, our second speaker, Kumar, was unable to join us, but we promise that the next hour will be compelling and insightful. We will start with a brief video, which is the latest product from our Combating Trafficking in Persons Program Office. Our CTIP Program Office major goal is to educate every member of the Department of Defense about trafficking in persons. So with that, watch the video, please.
United States military and civilian forces strive to promote our interests abroad and to protect our freedoms at home. We interact and ally on a daily basis with local civilians, government, and military personnel around the world. In performance of our duties, U.S. forces may encounter terrible crimes and serious human rights violations, such as sex trafficking, forced labor, slavery, kidnapping, torture, and child soldiers. These acts, when performed under color of law, meaning committed in official capacity, rise to the level of gross violations of human rights. United States law and DOD policy define a number of inhumane acts as gross violations of human rights, including but not limited to many forms of trafficking in persons. Historically, U.S. forces encountered these violations. In World War II, Korean women were forced into prostitution to serve as comfort women to Japanese soldiers. In Southeast Asia, Burmese minorities were trafficked for labor and prostitution by Burmese military forces. And more recently, in some Middle East and African countries, children are conscripted to serve as soldiers, porters, cooks, miners, and sex slaves. So, what should we do when we see or suspect a gross violation of human rights? Consider the DOD's response to a situation of great concern in Afghanistan. In spite of a state-supported ban, several members of the Afghan security forces continued to take part in the tradition of bachabazi, in English, dancing boys. In private parties, young boys dressed as girls, forced to dance for the entertainment of the men, passed around and often used for sex. The practice is a form of human trafficking. And when the participants are uniformed forces and the crime is committed under color of law, it is also a gross violation of human rights.
And human trafficking is defined as a form of modern-day slavery, where people
In Afghanistan, the program manager for the DOD's Combating Trafficking in Persons, or CTIP, Program Management Office briefs all new arrivals at Bagram Air Base so they'll know what to look for and how to immediately report suspected violations, such as bachabazi.
It's important to know that our Oconee CTIP mission here operates from a foundation of shared understanding that human dignity and respect are force multipliers. So we will continue to do the hard work to move the needle forward to ensure these heinous crimes and incidents do not happen within our military footprint.
U.S. forces under the U.S. Southern Command also encounter gross violations of human rights on a regular basis. Southcom's Human Rights Office delivers required training to all deploying personnel and issues a standing orders pocket card to remind them of the 5 R's of their mandated reporting in accordance with Southcom's zero tolerance policy for human rights violations. If you witness or suspect a violation, take action. The DOD's position is clear. Any suspected trafficking in persons or other human rights violations must be reported immediately. Each regional command has a mandated reporting chain based on the region. So now is the time to make sure you know the reporting channels of your particular AOR and to be prepared at all times to see it reported.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor to introduce the Director of Defense Human Resources Activity, Mr. William H. Booth. Mr. Booth is a member of the Senior Executive Service. In his capacity as the Director of Defense Human Resources Activities, he provides administrative and operational oversight of the field activity, which includes the Combating Trafficking in Persons Program Office. Immediately prior to this assignment, Mr. Booth served as the Assistant Deputy Undersecretary of the Air Force Management and Assistant Air Force Deputy Chief Management Officer. Mr. Booth retired from the Air Force after 28 years serving in a wide variety of positions of increasing responsibility at Wing, Major Command, Unified Command, and Air Force Headquarters level. We are very fortunate and thankful for Mr. Booth's leadership and support of the Combating Trafficking in Persons program. Mr. Booth, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I hope the video had the impact on you that it has on me every time I see it. This stuff really goes on. Yes, it just goes on overseas, right? No. Linda brought to my attention not too many, yeah, I'm already off script. Linda brought to my attention not too long ago, no, I'm on mic.
Oh, my bad.
That's okay, she's trying to take care of me. That recently, not too far from where I live, out in the Herndon area, we had a major roundup of human traffickers. That's where we live and work. So this is real. This is not something that's just far, far away, but when our military are deployed, when our civilians are deployed. But even if we're in garrison, even if we're here at the Pentagon or at the Mark Center where most of us work, it is our responsibility to do the same things that you saw in that order from Southcom Commander. And let's never forget that. Now, I will actually go to my prepared remarks. The video did it, okay? Thank everyone for being here. Absolutely thanks to the folks that organized the event. It takes a lot of work. Thanks to each of you that do your bit every single opportunity you have to help us in the ever-ending campaign to eradicate this thing called human trafficking. Now, we're honored today to have Ambassador Richmond with us. Ambassador Richmond basically is an ambassador to the world to help lead this effort. He's the federal government lead over at the Department of the State for eradicating human trafficking. And frankly, I'm just amazed he even had time to give us a few minutes today. So, sir, thank you for being here. The President declared this the month that we focus on preventing human trafficking. The proclamation of its, National Slavery Human Trafficking Prevention Month. We have events such as this. But more importantly, let's talk about what we in the department have done over time. There's things to be proud of, and there's certainly things to strive for in the future. First of all, we were the first department in the federal government in our acquisition regulations, in the DFAR, to insert a clause that actually mandates that contractors pay attention to trafficking. Way back in 2006. But as you see, even today, incidents occur. So that's a good thing. I'm glad to tell you all that soon we will be the first federal entity to, in our DOD schools, to have training for the students on this subject. And obviously we'll offer that same training for their parents. A great step forward because it's the young folks that are the next generation. And if they're trained and understand what to watch for, even a student abroad can be, in effect, a first responder as we try to eradicate human trafficking. Okay. So I covered those 3 points rather well. Brenda, smile. Okay? Okay? But now let's talk about this a little bit more to home. Why do we care? Why do we care? We care because part of our national fabric is ensuring that everyone can live free. Why this nation was founded is on the principles of equalness and equal opportunity. And yes, there were some times in our past when we had to struggle to get there, but as a nation, we got there. And now, we need to be the shining light for the world. Next to the State Department, we probably have more people in more locations than anyone else in the American government. Actually, I could make a contention we have more people than state because we have Marines in all the embassies, I do believe, so where they are. But my point is, we have an opportunity to make a difference. And that's what this is about. Making a difference. Events like this, while it's the month that we recognize and we think about, combating trafficking. It's a good thing, and I thank the good Lord that President Trump made that point in the proclamation. But this is something we actually need to focus on 365 days a year, period. We need to be the first responders. Now, in our DHRA family, we have a wide group of prevention portfolios. We have the portfolio in our suicide prevention office where we're doing our best to try to help stem the suicide rate in the military and our civilian population in the department. We have our sexual assault prevention stream, which is trying to do the same in that egregious area. And then we have our CTIP program, which is trying to help stem the tide in this equally egregious area. The only term in this video that causes me to have some chagrin, and it has to be there, is the use of the word gross before violation. Because for me personally, anything that entraps a person, takes away their freedom, that is a violation, whether it's labeled gross or not, that we have to be willing to report. Let someone else make that legal determination if it reaches the level of being actionable from a legal viewpoint and being gross. We're just first responders, the military and civilian members of the Department of Defense. our contracting partners, active, Guard, Reserve, full-time, part-time, everyone in the DOD enterprise has a role. So as you're dealing in your daily jobs, doing that paperwork here in the Pentagon, which we all love staff work, right? Think about as you're doing that, how you could have an impact on the front lines of this war. And this is a war. How can you have an impact? The first thing is by just your personal dedication and your personal support of the effort. Not just one time a year to come to an event in the Pentagon Auditorium. And quite honestly, what's been going on the last few days, that we got, 30% of this auditorium full is kind of a pleasant surprise, because we know what's going on in the world. But I will tell you this, in the words of our SecDef, Mark Esper, Secretary of Defense Esper, each of us take a solemn oath to support and defend the Constitution. The Department's mission imparts a special responsibility on each of us to serve with utmost integrity and be diligent in protecting the duties and confidences with which we have been entrusted. Helping combat human trafficking is one of those duties. Yes, fighting the nation's wars is one of those duties. Doing our best to preserve the defense, preserve deterrence, and help our partners in state to do the diplomatic mission is one of those duties. But also doing what's right on this important front is one of those duties. I thank you for being here. I look forward to hearing the speaker we do have here, the speaker we don't have here, quite honestly. It was tied up in some ongoing events of the week that made security heightened and couldn't actually make the connections getting out of country in time. So yes, even the actions going on right now in the forward areas impacted even this event. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Booth. We will now move directly to our speaker, Mr. Harold D'Souza. Mr. D'Souza is a survivor of labor trafficking and debt bondage in the United States of America. Originally from India, Harold stepped down from a senior management position in order to pursue the American dream, which he believed was within his reach. For 133 months, Harold was exploited at the hands of a human trafficker within the United States, losing his freedom and struggling to keep his family safe. Today, Mr. D'Souza is a survivor, an advocate, public speaker, and a member of the U.S. Advisory Council on Human Trafficking. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Harold D'Souza.
Thank you. I think this came off your head, told me. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, first and foremost, for inviting a common man, a survivor, especially to Pentagon. It means a lot to me and to all the immigrants, not only in the United States of America, but globally. Respected Dr. Walsh, Mr. Booth, my good friend, I would say, but I'm very proud to say that Ambassador John Richmond He's a very happy, humble, honest, and a good human being. And he has done a fantastic job way back in India. And I thank you very much for encouraging survivors to live a happy life. And moving ahead, I want to thank Linda, Brenda, Laura, especially Linda and Brenda for being so cool, caring, and compassionate, for organizing my logistics, my travel plan to DC, and again giving me a ride here and making my life very easy. So thank you very much. So having said that, I want to thank each and every individual sitting here, and I just want to share what happens in the life of human labor trafficking and debt bondage in the United States of America. And just moving ahead, I just want to share, like, I have written a book, A Frog in a Well. But why I say that, I grew up in a village in India, Mangalore. It's a small village, and we don't have running water or electricity. So every house, there is a well, and from the well, we get the water. Same way in the life of a victim of human labor trafficking or sex trafficking, the victim's life is like a frog in the well. The frog thinks there's a world, because there's water, there's everything, but not knowing there's a better world outside. So same way in the case of a labor trafficking, we didn't know that you have choice, you have freedom, you have happiness, other factors. But having said that, I just want you all to understand how a person like me who is educated, or a girl who is highly educated, can become a victim of sex trafficking or labor trafficking. Understand one thing, I am from India. Mine is an arranged marriage. I got married on May 29, 1994. And in those days, we never exchanged photographs or nothing. I just went and saw her, but we got married. But today, I am a happy husband. We are married for more than 25 years, happily. But what I'm wanting to say is that we work our marriage relationship on trust, faith, commitment. And that's how we get into this type of a situation. So I was invited to the United States of America in the year 2003 on an H-1B visa on a salary of $75,000. That is mucho money, especially for a people like me, like India, because we convert $1 into rupees. So it was like fast forwarding my life. And I thought I could improve my life and change the life of my kids. And that changed me of coming here. So I came on 4 things. I came on a trust, I came on a faith, I came on a promise, and I came to live my American dream. But little did I know that I was walking straight into a trap, because I was manipulated, I was tricked and trapped. The day I landed in February of 2003, my perpetrator asked me, "Harold, do you have any cash?" And I said, "Yes." I was carrying $1,000 cash from India. So he said, "Oh, it is not safe. Give it to me." And I believed him, like I just didn't know. So I gave him the cash, and I forgot about it, thinking that it's in safe custody. And what happens? He makes me and my wife work in a restaurant. I came as a business development manager on a $75,000 salary, everything in black and white, on an H-1B visa. Makes my wife and myself work at a restaurant from the day one, the day we landed in the evening at 7 o'clock. And within few days, we were working from 14 hours to 16 hours a day, non-stop, 7 days a week, 365 days. And he fixed the very first day, "Harold, you got two boys." My 2 sons were 4 years and 7 years old. And he said, "You need money. You need to buy a house." Like he just showed us the moon. And he fixed the salary of my wife for $2,000 a month. So we said, "Okay, that's cool." But what happens? We started working. And within weeks, we were working like 16 hours a day. I still remember the first day when I was coming home at night, 2 o'clock from the restaurant. And we are so excited to see our kids. And that out of excitement, I opened the door, like you open the door of your house door. I opened the door, and I was so excited. I opened the door so fast that I hit so hard on my son's head, because my younger son was sleeping next to the door, waiting for us. And my older son was 6 feet away on the floor in his undergarments. They're sleeping like rats, waiting for us. But that, what happens, breaks you down, breaks a parent down. Her trust, the dignity. But this all continued. And having said that, I just want to play a video, and I'll continue my journey. This will give a total idea. Oh, sorry.
Human trafficking. It's victimizing tens of thousands of hardworking people in America. And as hard as it is to believe, it's happening here in the tri-state. Catherine Nero walks you step by step through a family's American dream, and the moment they realized it was all a sham.
$75,000 a year. That's the money Harold D'Souza was promised, the money that made him uproot his family from India and move to Blue Ash. The money he never saw. What he did see was confusion, starvation, lies, and years of fighting to get the life he longed for.
Harold and Nancy D'Souza moved to the U.S. 11 years ago.
Back in India, it's every person's dream, I would say, to come to the United States.
With $1,000 in their pocket, faith, promise, and a dream.
The faith got changed to fear. The promise got transformed into slavery. And my dream, which I came, was like a hell.
Within months, the nightmare began. They worked 15-hour days, 7 days a week, and never got paid. The D'Souzas are educated, but they say they were still brainwashed by the restaurant owner who brought them here.
Well, whatever he said, we believed.
Aaron Meyer from End Slavery Cincinnati and the Salvation Army says that story is a common one.
It starts off as a seemingly, particularly with labor trafficking, this is a great job, it's going to be a great opportunity, and then it divulges into this abusive, restrictive, and coercive relationship.
So for more than a year, the D'Souzas lived with no money, no furniture. Their children, Bradley, now a sophomore at UC, and Rohan, a junior at Sycamore, slept on the floor. Clothing and food were scarce.
If you don't have a pair of shoes, you can still live. If you don't have some basic, no television, you can live, but it's very difficult to live if you don't have food. You know, like, and I can still feel it.
The restaurant owner, whom the D'Souzas won't name for fear of retaliation, never paid them a penny.
In the US, we didn't know the culture, we didn't know the people, we were totally clueless.
Eventually, Harold and Dancy took their story to Blue Ash Police, who sent them to the Department of Justice.
She said, this is a case of human trafficking. Till then, even we did not realize that we had been trafficked.
On the other side now, he's proud of his perfect attendance at his new job at Children's Hospital, and Bradley and Rohan have an entire trophy case of awards honoring their community service.
This community helped us so much. Us giving back however little time is still not enough to make up for the thanks that we have.
We came with a dream to the United States of America, and today I think we're living the dream.
Harold says the food he eats, the air he breathes, it's better now that his nightmare is over. WCPO reporter Lucy May has an in-depth look at the D'Souzas on WCPO.com, including the outcome of their lengthy court case and how you can help identify victims of human trafficking. Catherine Nero, 9 on your side.
So anyway, in all my presentations, my life has entirely been flipped. I always said that we turned obstacles into opportunities. And I always say, just to take 3 things from my presentation is be happy, be empowered, and be thankful. So every day, I'm really happy, I'm thankful, and I'm empowered. And that goes to each individual sitting here. Every individual has played a very big role in our life, my entire family life. We all 4 were born in India, but I can proudly say that we were all raised in the United States of America. I think they always say the biological mother who gives birth to a child, but the mother who raises a child is much bigger than the biological mother who gives birth to the child. But having said that, when we start working in the restaurant, what happens? This labor trafficking in the United States of America happens at 4 places. It happens at restaurants, it happens at gas stations, it happens at convenience stores, it happens at motels. These are the places where I know where I got victimized, re-victimized. There are other places like agriculture, farming, but these are the 4 common places which happens on a very high scale, especially with foreign nationals. So, other thing is that for any common man to survive in the United States of America, you need 4 things. You need a state ID. You need a work permit. You need a social security card. And most important, you need freedom. The second part, what does the perpetrator do? If my name is Harold, my son's name is Rohan, or somebody is working there, they'll never call you by name. They'll call you illegal, come here. They always term you as illegal, that's a nickname. Every immigrant who's working here in the United States of America, under the table is being paid cash, they're always termed as illegal. What happens? It does a couple of things. The perpetrator starts to control the victim, because whenever you call a person illegal, he or she thinks that he's a criminal. And that is what happened to us. We thought that, okay, we're a criminal. But that is what his plannings are. And down the road, after a couple of months, he tells me, Harold, you need to take a bank loan. I said, bank loan I didn't want, because we didn't have anything like, you need to build a credit. In India, we didn't have anything like credit cards or what is to build a credit. But he manipulated, tricked me, took me to the bank one fine day, and takes me to the bank. I didn't know which bank it is till today. I didn't know, because he drove me someplace. I go to the manager's cabin. I sign some couple of documents. In 5 minutes, there's a check in my name, a 5-figure check in my name. And then takes me to his house. By the way, most of the perpetrators in the United States of America, or maybe globally, are multi-millionaires, because they make rich profits. It's very intoxicating for them. They get so much joy when they see, it's like removing a fish from a fish bowl and throwing it out. They enjoy it. I can literally see it in my own eyes right now. So he takes me to his house. He told Harold, his $1 million house, and tells, Harold, let's celebrate. You're a rich man. So he gets 2 shot glasses, pours some scotch, and says, cheers, you're a rich man. Let's enjoy. And it was late afternoon, so I just gulped it down, the scotch. And before it could reach in my stomach, from his pocket, he removes a chit and tells me, Harold, you owe me this money. Now, can you believe? In 1 second, I lost 4 things. I lost my voice, I lost my courage, I lost my hope, and I lost my freedom. And it was not 10,000 friends, it was not $20,000, it was more than $40,000. And I was thinking, where in the world I'm going to pay this money back to him? But at that particular moment, I realized now, after 10 years, that was actually a debt bondage. I had no clue. But before I could realize what was going on in my life, and before I could digest what was happening to me, he comes to me, and nicely he comes and pats on my back. He says, Harold, don't worry, you owe me much more. I said, oh my God, so that was not the final bill. So there was much more. So this continued. Comes December. We never saw snow in our life. Like I told you, in our house, there was no electricity or running water. So even having a cube of ice for me was like having ice cream. So we saw snow for the first time. Guess what? We get a note from the school teacher that both my sons cannot come to school if they don't wear snow jackets. My kids had sweaters from India, so which they used to wear, but I didn't know what was a snow jacket. So my chef, he bought the snow jackets and gave it to my kids. And then we get a note next day from the school teacher that both my sons cannot come to school if they don't wear snow gloves. Now, we don't know what, they had woolen gloves, but what I'm trying to say, these are all red flags, which could have been identified at a very early stage in the school. Continues. What I'm trying to share, because I got a limited time, but just the tip of the iceberg of what happens in the life of a victim of a labor trafficking and debt bondage. Comes after almost a year. My wife, she could not take it anymore. She used to break down. That was the everyday story. And what happens to a man, a husband, a father, when you have got 2 kids? I always tell, I failed on 4 Ps. I failed as a person, I failed as a provider, I failed as a protector, and I failed as a parent. But having said that, after 1 year, my wife could not take it anymore. So she confronted the perpetrator in the kitchen in the morning, 10 o'clock when you're putting the buffet, and says that, why don't you pay me my back wages? And do you know, right from San Diego to New York or anywhere in the United States of America, whichever small town it is, perpetrators use 4 words to every immigrant. Number 1, I'll get you arrested. Number 2, they do with action. They'll put your hands and say, I'll get you handcuffed. Number 3, I'll get you deported. And number 4, I'll get you jailed. Now, no foreign national wants to hear these 4 words, because everyone here has come to do a better living for their family back in their own country, or to have a good life. Every foreign immigrant who come here to work are good human beings. They are not criminals. But this is what they tell. And what happens? Everyone gets scared, including me. So he told my wife, he does like this, I'll call the immigration department right now. and tell them that you're illegal. You're not supposed to work here. You make a person work for over a year and then say that you're not supposed to work. But having said that, my wife didn't say a word. She said that, why don't you pay Harold the $1,000 he gave you? So he calls me, looks into my eyes straight and tells, Harold, what cash? What money? You didn't give any cash. Friends, like I told you, I'm from India. But in 1 second, my emotions, my feelings, and my sentiments was shattered. I just couldn't do anything. But I always say, in God's home, there is delay, no denial. And my chef, he heard it. He was in a similar situation in some other state. And he got his status later on. So he told me, Harold, you need to get out. If you don't get out, you, your wife, and your 2 sons are dead. And that is how we went and started to fight our case. Eventually, my case went to the FBI. It's a long story. Like, I went to the Blue Ash police station. I was running from post to pillar. I didn't know what happened. He sold the restaurant. We were kicked out of the restaurant. What happened? My life began from bad to worst. I didn't know whom to contact, because he used to always tell me undercover cops come or immigration department comes to the restaurant, and so don't talk to any Americans. So when all these things transformed and we didn't know what to do, we got re-victimized. I got re-victimized at another place. He hired a guy to shoot me, and I could see he threatened me that I'm going to kill you. One is, I used to always say that I saw the movie The Good, the Bad, the Ugly of Clint Eastwood when I was in India. So it's so exciting when you see blood and when you see gunshot. Then it's a big thriller. It's a big movie. But when somebody threatens you literally and you can see it and you mean it, that he's going to kill you. So one day, I was talking to my wife in the afternoon. I was so traumatized. And I was telling my wife, that I'm not going to live. And I'm going to die. So my younger son was playing on the floor on the corner. So I always tell, do not be scared what the child speaks, but be scared what the child sees and hears. So in few seconds, my son comes and taps me on my back, and I look at him. He says, Dadu, if you die, who takes care of my school? What will happen to me? So that is when it hit me that I need to do something. If I die, he dies. If I die, my wife dies. And so I thought I got to live, come what may. And that is what gave me the determination, the willpower, and God's blessing that I need to come out of this situation. And I had no clue that how I'm going to do this, how it's going to make it happen. Eventually, my case went to the FBI. So I have a lot of respects for DOD, all the delegates sitting here, the law enforcement agencies, because the FBI agent was the first case. She was doing the case on labor trafficking, that one on an H-1B visa. She never did a case on that. But what really amazed me was that I was so scared to talk to an FBI agent, because I was told that I'll get deported, I'll get jailed. That was all that thing going on. But the FBI agent did her investigation, she did everything. But one thing I respect all the law enforcement agencies here, sitting here, is that once she came to my house, she came to know that my wife was engaged or involved into some sexual abuse. So she came with her deputy or somebody to talk to us, because she might have got the information from the witnesses. But it was so emotional for us. And then later on, after some more interaction with her, she used to always come to my house. And then she realized that I was not talking, because I think law enforcement agencies can read us very well, our body language. And then she told me that she came and she went out, again she came back in. And she looked into my eyes and said, Harold, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to deport you or to get you arrested. I know that even if you work illegally, or she's under the table, she didn't say illegally, but you're working under the table and taking money as a cash, and I was working in a store. And yes, I was getting paid cash. How I'm going to run my family? Well, I don't care. But I'm here only to help you. But that touched me. I tell you one thing, when law enforcement agencies talk like that to a victim, that we are here to help you, and they understand the feelings, emotions, and sentiments of a victim, then that changed me. Then I thought, oh, this lady is coming to help me. She's not a law enforcement agency. And every time she came to me as a mother, her nature, her passion. So that touched me. She was so caring. So then I started coming out and started sharing and talking to her. So then things started changing for me. And eventually we got the CP visa. I didn't know what was the CP visa. That's continued presence. Then I got the U visa. And then we got the permanent residency card. But the way the things went, it was such a slow process that it was whenever a law enforcement agency comes to you, they're there only for maybe half an hour or 1 hour, but how are you going to survive for the next couple of hours or couple of days or couple of weeks? So the community of Cincinnati helped us so much that I know that some people, like one day we were taking food from a need place where they give food to the family, and we were just walking out, my wife and myself. So there was one chaplain who used to come to our restaurant regularly. He saw us. He said, hey, how are you all? We said, we are fine. Then he said, no, I don't think so, you'll are fine. Well, since you're here, we had gone to some parish to get something. So he said, then what happened? I said, the restaurant got closed and we got kicked out. But there were 4 people. They stood on the middle of the road, hold their hands and prayed for us. So I think those are the things that really changed our life. It is God's blessing. How perpetrators break you, your dignity, your pride. Imagine you're a father. There are so many fathers here, so many men here. You all got kids. Think your kid is 5-year-old. A perpetrator, he takes his hand and gives a full slap in front of your child. What do you do? That is the most hopeless situation for a father to go through that. To seeing your child hit or slapped for no rhyme or reason. You will not hit a child even if it's not yours for no rhyme or reason. Even if there is some small reason, you will not slap him. But guess what? When you slap a child, the child will cry for a couple of minutes. But for the dad or for the parent, it sticks lifelong. It doesn't go. But these are certain things that transformed. And then I just didn't know how to handle the situation, but things started moving and changing in my life. And then we decided that I never wanted to be in on this news channel. And they wanted to blur my face. But then I saw 2 people die here, immigrants. And that is what changed me. Today, we buy a bottle of water, we buy Starbucks coffee. But do you know, in Cincinnati, where I lived or where I was being victimized, people sell human beings. Like, just giving an example, Linda, you'll say, okay, yeah, Brenda, here you can take Harold for $25,000 or $50,000. That's what they do. And I've seen this happen. And that is the reality. There's something one is to accept it, that how this entire world industry works. This industry basically is very, very ruthless. And that is what changed me. I still remember one of my friends, he was from India, from Goa. He was working with me here. And these people, why people don't get caught? Whenever the victim of labor trafficking, they move from one state to another, one place to another. They're never at one place. So that's why most of the cases do not get surfaced. It gets closed. They'll use them for maybe a year, 2 years, and they move out. And what happens? Anywhere in the case of labor trafficking, the perpetrator will hold the salary of minimum 8 months. Why? Number one, the immigrant, whether he's from Mexico, India, Pakistan, Nepal, Guatemala, he doesn't have a bank account. So the perpetrator will say, okay, I'm keeping the cash. Whenever you're going back to your country, I'll give it to you. So slowly and gradually, he's in his clutches. So for 8 months' salary is not withheld with them. Why? He says, what do you need money for? Any case of labor trafficking, whether it is restaurants, gas stations, convenience stores, or motels, they give you accommodation next door, the perpetrator. So accommodation is available next door. Why? What happens? Number one, labor is available 24 hours, 7 days a week. If maybe it is rain, shine, or snow, you cannot say, I cannot come. You have to work. And then lodging, boarding is taken care. And then you don't have to pay any money. So they don't need any salary. So that is how this entire thing continues over there. So that, I have time? Okay, 1 minute? Okay. so anyway, so thank you very much. And I just was saying that 1 minute. See, this is how a person disguised himself. And he's 32 years old, acted as an 81-year-old, and this was about 6 months back, and he got caught in Delhi. And that's how people come here. And that's why right now I'm creating protection, prevention, education, and empowerment in India. I just went to India in the month of November. I did over 30 presentations there, trying to educate people not to come here. But now this man is in the prison. And he was to come to New York and send 30 lakhs to his agent. That 30 lakhs is like $44,000. One lady paid 53 lakhs, that is $75,000 in advance for her husband and her kid. And she got deported after 6 months from Mexico. So these are real life, true stories. And how a victim like me, we say, can become a victim of labor trafficking or sex trafficking. In India, when I grew up in my village, these baby elephants, they're very naughty. They're tied with a thick chain. So they try to run. So they try to run, they bruise, they bleed. But this elephant thinks that I cannot run, this elephant. But after 5 years, this same elephant has got so much power that it can topple a car, it can break a wall, it can uproot a tree. But the same elephant, today also in India, I've seen it. They tie this big elephant with the same leg with a thin rope. What the elephant does, it just lifts his leg up and down, up and down. So the elephant thinks that my leg is tied. But then, that's all in the mind. So that's what happens in the case of a victim of a labor trafficking. That is all in the mind. And they just cannot do anything. So I have started a non-profit, Eyes Open International. So basically I'm focusing in India, Pakistan, Nepal. And so I started with India, next is Nepal. So basically working on the prevention education. I have a GoFundMe page where I'm trying to raise funds. So, and these are the hotline numbers. I always tell people to save it on their phones wherever I go. So I have it on my phone, on the human trafficking hotline numbers. And this is my contact details. And in the end, I just like to end with one note, is that, do not tell Pentagon how big the perpetrators in your life. Since I'm in the Pentagon, I was just thinking today when I was coming, But tell the perpetrator how big the Pentagon is in your life, the Department of Defense. So thank you very much. I know what a great job you all are doing. So Vande Mataram, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. D'Souza. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor to introduce the Acting Director of the Pentagon Force Protection Agency, Dr. Daniel P. Walsh. As the Acting Director, Dr. Walsh is responsible for providing full range of services to protect people, facilities, infrastructure, and other resources at the Pentagon reservation and in DOD-occupied facilities in the National Capital Region. Within this scope, he exercises the authorities of the Secretary of Defense with respect to force protection, security, and law enforcement. Dr. Walsh joined the agency in 2008 as a scientist in the Chemical, Biological, and Radiological and Nuclear and Explosives Directorate. He previously served as the Assistant Director of Security, Integration, and Technology, Chief of Science and Technology Office, and as Special Assistant to the Agency Director. Prior to his tenure at the Pentagon Force Protection Agency, he served as a Hazardous Materials and Weapons of Mass Destruction Specialist for the New York City Department of Environmental Protection, supervising response analytical operations for hazardous material incidents throughout the city. Dr. Walsh, you have the floor.
Thank you. I just want to get some thank yous out of the way. Thank you so much. That was thank you. Thank you. It's very impactful. And it's sharing with us. I just want to, on behalf of everybody here, I just want to thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Booth, for you and your staff for letting us participate and partner with you on this. Sometimes in the security and law enforcement world, they say it's a thankless job, but the truth is we get to police an incredible community here. So you guys are pretty good. When you see someone in uniform, you say thank you to us quite often. So in the policing world, we're pretty lucky. But these CTIP folks, you don't get to wear that uniform all the time and get recognized, I think enough, and you deal with difficult stuff, right? Just moral failings and just the depths of human tragedy every day. And sometimes we get to go blow off steam at the range. I don't know if you ever get to. So you should. Maybe you're welcome to come down there. For all you do, just thank you so much, your whole staff. Just one last thank you is for Roseanne and Amanda there who helped support this. They've been really busy. They put on great events. I just wanted to thank them. And just one final thought. I think it's appropriate as a law enforcement organization that we're partnering in this issue. But it's not just a law enforcement challenge. This is a whole of society human problem, right? And this is global. And when you said it about the red flags with the story about your kids, I have kids the same age as yours when you said that you came here. So it particularly struck me. And you see those little sends messages about people who leave their lunch boxes in the bathrooms, don't go by the bathroom until we clear it. And we push out those see something, say something messages. And maybe this week you're thinking about the folks doing the pre-operational stuff from our adversary overseas, or you're looking for that suspicious package. But there's a see something, say something, and an education challenge for this topic for each and every one of us, for our spouses, for our families. You may have people in your family who are nurses, teachers, social workers, whatever. This is happening under our noses every day as you drive around Northern Virginia, drive around this country. And you do those computer-based trainings, and you can do this one on the computer and just kind of click your way through, like maybe sometimes you do for some of those other ones. And maybe you don't absorb it. I don't think you can listen to someone like yourself and just ignore that. And every year I feel honored to be able to partner with you all, and I'm shocked by how much I can learn and what we can learn from sharing. So thank you again. Thank you all. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Wash. Ladies and gentlemen, your attention today meets the Combating Trafficking in Persons training requirement. Please ensure that you pick up a certificate upon exiting the auditorium and submit it to your training officials or coordinator if you wish to get credit for this session. As we close our program, we would like to show a Combating Trafficking in Persons video trailer about the general awareness training, our specialized training for investigative professionals and acquisition professionals, and also our DOD education activity staff.
On any given day, 25 million people are victims of modern slavery, also known as human trafficking. The Department of Defense supports the U.S. government's zero-tolerance policy regarding this crime, which violates the human rights of its victims and jeopardizes the DOD's mission. Since 2002, the DOD has been fighting to break up this industry by evaluating the problem, pushing for new initiatives, raising awareness, and equipping and enabling all members to take action. The DOD launched online learning solutions to help combat trafficking in persons through Joint Knowledge Online, or JKO, available worldwide, anytime, anywhere, for 4 distinct and important audiences. For all DOD personnel, General Awareness Training. This online course raises awareness of the pervasiveness of human trafficking, explains how trafficking affects mission readiness, and encourages each learner to claim their role in the fight. For investigative personnel, from military police to any personnel who conduct inquiries such as audits, assessments, inspections, investigations, or evaluations, specialized training on how to respond to trafficking in persons situations. This online course uses scenarios and case studies to teach what to look for, where to look, how to respond when trafficking is uncovered, and how its victims are affected. It also teaches what laws apply in different trafficking situations. For DOD contractors and defense acquisition professionals, online training to explain their roles and their obligations to fight trafficking. This online course provides information on the Combating Trafficking in Persons language that must be included in all DOD contracts, steps to prevent trafficking violations, and what to do if a violation of the zero-tolerance policy is discovered. For DOD education professionals, targeted online learning to fight the spread of human trafficking into DOD schools at home and abroad. Educators are learning about the vulnerabilities of DOD school children to human trafficking, as well as the risk factors and warning signs, and their role in combating trafficking. Each individual in the Department of Defense can make a difference and potentially save a life by becoming aware of human trafficking indicators and knowing how to report them. The DOD is committed to continuously expanding and improving the training it provides on combating trafficking in persons.
So, Mr. D'Souza wants to come and have a parting word. So we're going to make a change to our program to have Harold come back and say a couple words. Thank you.
No, thank you. But I just wanted to share on a happy note that all the good work you do, the pure reflection, the boy's head who I hit when I was very young. I would like to introduce my younger son is here, Rohan D'Souza. Can you stand up, please? So he's my inspiration, and I always believe that, like when y'all saved me, it was not one life, y'all saved 4 lives. So my son, he's working for Apple now. He graduated 1 year early without any student loan. So that makes me happy. He's a state champion for tennis. So we are just hoping that he gets to play in the Wimbledon. He's been a ball boy for Serena Williams, Djokovic, Federer for the last 10 years at Cincinnati Masters. My wife, she works for General Electric Credit Union in Cincinnati, but today she's in Columbus doing a presentation on human trafficking at the Attorney General's office. So this is the first time the Attorney General office day host is doing a human trafficking conference in Columbus, so she could not come. And my older son, he works for Tesla in Chicago. He'll be completing in this April 6 years. So I just wanted to thank, and thank each one of you for inviting me and all the wonderful job you do for all the immigrants. And I want to thank Dr. Gopal also for coming all the way from Chicago and everyone being here. Thanks a lot. God bless America.
Okay, most people are familiar with sex trafficking. As we just heard from our speaker, labor trafficking happens around us too. Forced labor, debt bondage are 2 common forms of trafficking. Forced labor is also known as involuntary servitude. According to the Department of State, forced labor is the biggest sector of trafficking in the world. This final short video we want to show you, it's what you might see in DOD dealing with labor trafficking. It is mainly to point out that it's not something that you can just write about. It is something that you have to look into, look beneath the surface to find it. You can't just go out and do an audit and an inspection without actually going and talking to the people and looking at the job sites and where they live. So with that, I'm going to show this last video. Ladies and gentlemen, we all need to be aware of the indicators of both sex and labor trafficking. This concludes our event. Thank you for attending. Please rise for the departure of the senior officials.